Hello, and welcome to the English Listen Lab. Today, we bring you an inspiring and thought-provoking story for B2 level English learners. This is the journey of a young boy who ran away from home, lived on the streets, and turned his struggles into something extraordinary. Forced to survive on his own, he discovered a passion for building things out of waste. His creativity led to an invention that changed the lives of thousands. Ready to hear his story? Let's dive in. From Runaway to Revolutionary, the story of a young inventor. Chapter 1. The Prison of Expectations. Ever since he was a child, Daniel had been told that his destiny was already written. His father, a highly respected engineer, expected him to follow the same path. Every moment of Daniel's childhood was planned. Advanced math classes, endless science projects, and no room for failure. While his classmates played football, Daniel spent his weekends buried in textbooks. Any grade lower than an A was considered unacceptable, and his father never hesitated to remind him that the family's reputation depended on his success. The pressure was unbearable. One night, after another argument with his father over his latest exam score, Daniel made a life-changing decision. He packed a small bag, took the little money he had saved, and slipped out of the house. With no clear plan, he headed toward the train station, not knowing that his real education was about to begin. Chapter 2. Life on the Streets. For the first time in his life, Daniel was free. But freedom came at a cost. He quickly realized that surviving on the streets was far more difficult than he had imagined. With no place to stay, he found shelter in an abandoned train station. His meals consisted of whatever scraps he could find in trash bins, and on colder nights, he curled up on a piece of cardboard, listening to the distant hum of passing trains. At first, he felt hopeless. He missed his mother's cooking, the warmth of his bed, and even the structure of school. But as days turned into weeks, he adapted. He learned which places offered free food, where to avoid trouble, and how to stay unnoticed. Then, one day, something changed. While digging through a pile of discarded electronics, Daniel found a broken radio. Curious, he took it apart, fascinated by the tiny components inside. That night, with the help of an old screwdriver he had found, he spent hours trying to fix it. It was the first time he felt a spark of excitement since leaving home. Chapter 3. The Junkyard Laboratory. Daniel's fascination with discarded objects grew. Every morning he wandered the city, searching for broken electronics, plastic bottles, and metal scraps. He set up a small workshop behind the train station, using an old wooden crate as a workbench. With time, he became skilled at fixing small devices, radios, watches, and even a broken fan. Other homeless people began bringing him broken things, and in exchange they offered him food or a few coins. Daniel wasn't just surviving anymore. He was building something. One day, after a heavy rainstorm, Daniel watched as dirty rainwater filled the streets. He saw a mother struggling to find clean water for her child. That's when an idea struck him. What if he could use the waste around him to create something useful, something that could help people like them? Chapter 4. The First Prototype. Determined, Daniel spent weeks experimenting with plastic bottles, sand, charcoal, and cloth. He read old newspapers for scientific ideas and observed how natural filters worked in ponds. His first attempt failed. The water came out just as dirty as before, but he didn't give up. After multiple tries, he noticed something interesting. When he combined crushed charcoal with layers of fine sand inside a plastic bottle, the water that dripped out looked clearer. Excited, he tested it again, this time collecting the filtered water and letting it sit overnight. By morning, the water was clean enough to drink. He had done it. He had created a simple but effective filtration system using nothing but garbage. Chapter 5. Recognition in the Unlikeliest Places. Word spread quickly. People living near the train station began using Daniel's filter, and soon, a local social worker noticed his invention. She was amazed that a homeless teenager had managed to create something so useful with no formal training. She introduced him to a community science fair, where young inventors showcased their projects. At first, Daniel hesitated. He had spent so long feeling like an outsider, he wasn't sure he belonged. But with encouragement, he presented his filter to a panel of judges. The response was overwhelming. Scientists, engineers, and environmentalists saw the potential in his invention. They asked how he had developed it, where he had learned to build, and what inspired him. For the first time, Daniel didn't feel like a runaway. He felt like an inventor. Chapter 6. An unexpected opportunity. Winning recognition at the science fair was just the beginning. A journalist covering the event was fascinated by Daniel's story and wrote an article about his invention. Within days, the article went viral, catching the attention of environmental organizations and philanthropists. One morning, Daniel received an invitation to visit a prestigious engineering university. They wanted to see his filter in action and discuss how it could be improved. It was an opportunity he never imagined possible. However, doubt crept in. Could a runaway with no formal education really stand among scientists and professors? He hesitated, but the encouragement from his supporters convinced him to take the leap. Chapter 7. The Learning Curve. At the university, Daniel was introduced to experts who were eager to refine his design. He spent hours in laboratories, testing different materials and techniques. For the first time, he had access to real tools and guidance from professionals. Despite his enthusiasm, he struggled with the technical terms and complex equations. His lack of formal education made things difficult, but he refused to let that stop him. Every night, he stayed up late reading books and watching online lectures to catch up. Slowly, he began to understand. His filter design became more efficient, filtering water faster and removing more impurities. With each improvement, Daniel felt more like a real inventor. Chapter 8. Spreading the impact. With a fully functional and scientifically validated water filter, Daniel's next challenge was scaling it up. He partnered with an NGO that provided clean water solutions to underprivileged communities. Together, they set up a program to distribute his invention to villages struggling with water shortages. Seeing people use his filter and have access to clean water for the first time filled Daniel with a sense of purpose he had never felt before. The gratitude in their eyes reminded him why he started this journey in the first place. Media outlets started covering his story, and donations poured in. What started as a survival skill had turned into a global mission. Chapter 9. Facing the past. One evening, as Daniel was preparing for another trip to distribute filters, he received a call from an unknown number. It was his father. After years of silence, his father had finally reached out. He had seen Daniel's success in the news and wanted to talk. The conversation was tense, filled with unspoken words and regrets. His father admitted that he had been too harsh, pushing Daniel to follow a path he never wanted. In return, Daniel shared his struggles and how leaving home had been his only option. For the first time, they truly listened to each other. Though their relationship wasn't instantly mended, it was a step forward. And for Daniel, that was enough. Chapter 10. A New Beginning. With his past no longer weighing him down, Daniel looked ahead to the future. His water filter technology was now being used in disaster relief efforts, refugee camps, and remote villages across the world. Universities offered him scholarships, companies wanted to collaborate, and people from around the globe reached out to share how his invention had changed their lives. But more than anything, Daniel had finally found his purpose. He had started as a runaway searching for freedom. Now, he was a revolutionary inventor changing the world. Thank you for following Daniel's incredible journey. From a lost teenager to a world-changing inventor, his story proves that resilience and passion can turn even the darkest situations into opportunities. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more inspiring tales, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Stay tuned for more exciting content from the English Listen Lab. See you next time.